In this day and age, there is no shortage of information surrounding food that can help your gut health. We know that fiber is good, and most of us have looked for healthy and easy ways to include more of it in our diet. The same can be said for the movement towards cultured yogurts and foods and drinks that act as a probiotic, such as kombucha. On the opposite side of the spectrum, as science has progressed, we've also become more aware of foods we can't digest. It seems that everyone has recently developed an intolerance of some sort, whether it's to lactose, gluten, or even a strange outlier like garlic. Most of us have started to discover the food groups that we function better without. But what are the worst foods for our gut? In this video, we'll be examining the 8 foods that you should say no to in order to improve your gut health. These are the foods that absolutely are unhealthy for your gut, as well as ways to heal it. Number 1. Sugar. Okay, so it's no secret that sugar is bad for us. Since the day we first had ice cream, most of our parents have been telling us that candy will rot our teeth and that Coca-Cola is unhealthy. But what a lot of us aren't told is that sugar is also one of the worst substances we can eat for our digestive system. Trillions of microbes live inside our intestines, inside our gut, and under our skin. These are tiny bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms that basically just exist within the human body. Many of them are actually good for our gut and our bodies. But the other ones cause diseases, and we want to be rid of them by all means necessary. Finding a balance between the good and bad bacteria is vital to our gut health. And when we eat sugar, it affects the gut microbiome in very specific ways. Most notably, sugar activates the energy needed for bacteria to grow. In the good kinds, this is great. But if we have too much sugar, it starts to affect the bad kinds of bacteria too. Basically, when a person has a high sugar diet, it means that some of those sugars can make their way to the gut microbiome, and the energy they create causes the bacteria to multiply, throwing off the balance in the microbiome. An increase of pathogenic bacteria, which is the type of microorganism that causes diseases, can lead to a reduction in the beneficial bacteria in one of the internal walls of our intestines. This can permanently alter it and allow lots of harmful substances to pass through. This is which leads to leaky gut syndrome. In this case, the gut lining is damaged and no longer functions as a barrier, instead forming holes which allow harmful bacteria and substances like gluten to enter our systems, causing serious damage to our health. So when your parents tell you to lay off the sugar, they may not even know how right they are. Yes, it does rot our teeth and lead to obesity, but the effects it has on our whole system are more serious than most of us ever realize. Number 2, soy. While finding out that sugar is bad for you isn't exactly reinventing the dietary wheel, soy is a food a lot of us might not have expected to see on this list. While its reputation isn't one of being particularly packed with nutrients, there have been studies that claim it could reduce cancer risk, lower cholesterol, and even alleviate the effects of menopause in women. Sadly, despite this, soy might be something you'd like to reduce in your diet. Studies in animals suggest that the anti-nutrients in soy reduce the gut's barrier function and also increases inflammation, especially in the colon. We do not know this for certain, as most of these studies have been on animals, especially mice, so more human studies are needed for proof. It's also worth noting that all of these studies have been in processed soy, which is most of our soy-related products. If you can find unrefined substitutes, then you can eat soy to your heart's content. Number 3, tap water. Another surprising one on the list. It's worth mentioning that every city's tap water is slightly different. If you're watching this from a rural mountain town, you're probably already aware that tap water isn't great for your stomach. But if you're from a major European city, you might be more surprised. Tap water is treated with a number of chemicals, such as chlorine, which is extremely bad for your gut bacteria. The other terrifying presence in tap water is antibiotics. These are actually recycled antibiotics that have been processed by another human's body after being consumed as medicine or in food before being recycled into tap water. Tap water is processed before it makes its way up to your kitchen, but not as much as filtered water. It can still have some antibiotic residue left, which will affect your gut microbiome. Drinking tap water in small doses can help build your immunity when compared to drinking filtered water every day. But if you can afford a Brita filter, it will go a long way in improving your gut health and is so much better for the planet than buying bottled water each time you go to the shops. Number 4, antibiotics. As we've mentioned, the antibiotics in tap water are a major risk for your gut, but tap water isn't the only place you'll find them. We all know that antibiotics kill bacteria when you have a cold that won't go away or an ear infection, but they also kill the good kind of bacteria, which are particularly prevalent in the gut, which is why taking antibiotics every time you get the flu is a bad idea. But that's not the only time you're at risk. 80% of antibiotics in the US are used for animal agriculture. So beware of undercooked meat and poultry, as animals, like us, contain lots of bacteria in their bodies. You're also potentially at risk from some processed and fast foods, although McDonald's is one company that has made a big move in recent years to ensure that their meat is antibiotic-free. Number 5, fried foods. This one probably does rule out most fast foods. Fried foods break down into components that feed the bad kind of bacteria in your gut, essentially allowing them to grow the same way that sugar does. The decrease in gut diversity is the biggest issue here because the more diverse the bacteria in your gut is, the more healthy you are likely to be. This is worth bearing in mind for all foods you eat, as creating a balance and variety in your diet will help to feed all the different bacteria. Number 6, high FODMAP foods. If you suffer from irritable bowel syndrome, along with around 45 million other people in the US, you're probably familiar with the term FODMAP. If you're lucky enough to be hearing this term for the first time, it stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, polyols. Don't worry, you don't need to know what any of those words mean. All you need to know is that following a low FODMAP diet is a great move for the health of your gut. Fruit juices, honey, jams, and any foods containing sweeteners are all high FODMAP foods, as are typically nutritious foods such as apricots, figs, and avocados. It's best to Google a full list if you want to take this stuff seriously, as it is hard to predict which foods are safe and which aren't, but you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. A low FODMAP diet restricts certain carbohydrates that draw more fluids into the intestine and create more gas, which leads to bloating. Low FODMAP foods include most dairy, a lot of fruits such as bananas, blueberries, kiwi, limes, and oranges, a large variety of vegetables, and almost all high-protein foods like beef, poultry, and most nuts and seeds. In other words, you won't be short of options, but you will likely feel a lot better and have a much healthier gut if you decide to go on this diet. Number 7, saturated fats. Well, most of these aren't good for you anyway. Saturated fats like butter are extremely high in cholesterol, which is the biggest contributor towards heart disease. Fatty meat and cheese are also high in these. But cholesterol isn't the only danger here. All saturated fats can really affect both the diversity and the abundance of good and healthy gut bacteria. You can replace butter with low-fat flora or earth balance. And a lot of people practice things like meat-free Mondays, not just for environmental factors, but also to give their body a break. Number 8, diet soda. Well, this one is inconvenient. We've already been through the risks of having too much sugar in your diet, and sodas like Coca-Cola and Sprite are going to be the biggest contributors of this for a lot of people. Unfortunately, while diet soda has a lower calorie and sugar content, it is no better for the health of your gut. The presence of artificial sweeteners used to replace the sugar content can change people's gut microbiota population for the worst. And this is why many people experience higher bloating and flatulence from diet soda than they do with the regular kind. We also don't know the true long-term impact of artificial sweeteners, and some scientists have hypothesized that they may increase cancer risk. So it may be best to approach all sugar replacements with an element of caution. How many of these will you be able to cut out of your diet? Let us know in the comments below. Here are 2 more videos you might find interesting. Feel free to choose the one you like. If you enjoyed this video, give a like and share the video with your friends. And for more interesting videos on health, subscribe to the channel.